You know, life has this strange way of falling apart right before something extraordinary happens. People often believe that when everything starts to collapse, it's a sign they're doing something wrong. That's rarely the truth. More often, it's the opposite. Chaos doesn't always mean failure. Sometimes it's divine disruption. Before anything great is built, something old must crumble. And that's what happens when God begins to test you before your breakthrough. He dismantles the stability you've grown comfortable with, because that stability can no longer carry the weight of who you're becoming. It's almost paradoxical. You pray for growth, and instead of instant progress, you face confusion. You ask for strength, and suddenly life becomes heavier. You want clarity, and somehow everything becomes foggy. That's the process. Order comes after chaos, not before it. Every meaningful transformation begins with disorder. It's the necessary breaking of old structures that no longer serve your purpose. And when this happens, it feels unfair, even cruel. But if you look deeper, you'll see it's preparation. God doesn't destroy, He rebuilds through breaking. He doesn't punish, He purifies through pressure. Think of your own life. The moments you learned the most weren't when everything was easy. They were when the ground beneath you shifted. Maybe you lost a job, a relationship, or a sense of certainty you once clung to. It felt like punishment, but it wasn't. It was a wake-up call, an invitation to evolve. The truth is, we humans don't change when we're comfortable. We change when we're confronted. When everything you've built starts shaking, that's not random suffering. It's the sound of the old self cracking so the new one can emerge. And this chaos, it's not merely external. It happens inside you too. The values you once held begin to clash with the truth you're discovering. Your ambitions might start to conflict with your conscience. That internal storm is sacred. It's the signal that you're being refined, that you're being reshaped for something greater. God uses the friction of chaos to polish character. Without pressure, faith remains theoretical. Without discomfort, courage never grows real roots. It's easy to want peace, to pray for calm seas, but calm seas never make skilled sailors. You're tested in the storm because that's where endurance is born. That's where you find out whether your faith is fragile or forged in fire. You can't know your strength until it's demanded. You can't prove your patience until it's stretched. You can't discover the depth of your spirit until life pushes you to your breaking point. And sometimes that breaking is exactly what's needed. Because on the other side of breaking is building a better version of you, one aligned with truth, not comfort. So when life becomes chaotic, resist the urge to see it as random suffering. Instead, recognize it as divine alignment. The chaos is the test before the order, the dismantling before the design. God allows everything to fall apart, not to punish you, but to show you what can no longer stay. He's not taking something from you. He's making room for something better. And if you can stay grounded, if you can hold faith in the middle of that confusion, you'll find that the very chaos you feared becomes the soil where your breakthrough takes root. Because every story of transformation begins this way: a world in chaos, a person in crisis, and then order, meaning, clarity. That's the rhythm of divine creation. First the storm, then the stillness. First the breaking, then the building. And if you're in the breaking right now, take heart. You're not losing control, you're being guided. The chaos is not the end, it's the beginning of your becoming. There comes a time in every person's journey when everything goes quiet. The noise fades, the familiar faces disappear, and you find yourself alone. Not the comfortable kind of alone, but the kind that echoes. It feels as though God has withdrawn His presence, as though heaven has gone silent. You pray and hear nothing. You look for signs and see none. The people who once supported you seem distant or preoccupied with their own lives. And it's in this wilderness, this uncomfortable isolation, that one of the most profound tests begins. Isolation is rarely accidental. It's not random solitude. It's deliberate separation, kind of divine quarantine where everything unnecessary is stripped away so that only what's essential remains. God doesn't isolate you to harm you. He isolates you to refine you. Because as long as you're surrounded by noise, you can't hear the quiet truths that live beneath it. The wilderness is where you stop performing for approval, where your masks fall off, where you confront the parts of yourself you'd rather avoid. It's where you meet your limits and your faith. Most people fear isolation because it feels like rejection. We assume that being alone means being forgotten. But solitude is not absence, it's invitation. It's an opportunity to rebuild your relationship with yourself and with God without the interference of the world's distractions. You see, when everything external is taken from you, status, validation, company, what's left is the internal. And that's what this test is about. Can you find peace when no one sees you? Purpose when no one praises you? Faith when no one reassures you? When you're isolated, doubts creep in. You question whether you're on the right path, whether you've been abandoned. But the silence is not proof of God's distance. It's a sign that He's teaching you to rely on something deeper than constant affirmation. In the wilderness, you stop chasing attention and start building conviction. You stop defining yourself by how others perceive you and start grounding yourself in truth that doesn't depend on recognition. That's the hard part of growth. Learning to stand alone without collapsing under the weight of uncertainty. Many of history's greatest transformations happened in isolation. Prophets, thinkers, artists, leaders all had to retreat before they could return. The wilderness is not the end of the story, it's the preparation for the next chapter. You're being taught endurance, patience, and trust. You're being asked to believe without evidence, to continue walking even when the path disappears under your feet. And as you do, you begin to realize that solitude is not emptiness. It's sacred space. It's where your spirit learns to listen. There's something powerful about the silence of the wilderness. It strips you of illusions. It confronts you with your fears, your weaknesses, your unresolved pain. If you stay there long enough, if you don't run from it, you begin to notice that beneath the loneliness, there's clarity. You begin to hear whispers of wisdom that were drowned out by the noise of constant activity. You start to understand that being unseen doesn't mean being unworthy. It means you're being hidden for a reason, protected, shaped, matured. And eventually, the isolation that once felt unbearable becomes your strength. You realize that the quiet was never empty. It was full of divine intention. God was never far. He was working in the silence, rebuilding you from within. So if you find yourself in a season of solitude, don't rush it. Don't try to fill it. Embrace it. Because when God isolates you, it's not rejection. It's preparation. The wilderness is where you learn to walk by faith, not by sight. It's where you become strong enough to carry away the weight or the breakthrough that's waiting on the other side. There's a particular kind of pain that comes when you try to live with integrity and the world responds with injustice. You do the right thing and somehow you suffer for it. You tell the truth and you're misunderstood. You stay loyal and people take advantage of your sincerity. It feels deeply unfair, like the moral order has collapsed. But that's one of the most telling signs that God is testing you before a breakthrough. Because injustice, as cruel as it seems, exposes what kind of person you truly are when doing good stops being rewarded. When everything seems unfair, it's easy to grow bitter. It's easy to say, why should I even try if the world punishes honesty and rewards deceit? But that moment, that temptation to give up on goodness is the real battlefield. You're not being tested in your comfort. You're being tested in your restraint. God allows injustice not to crush you, but to reveal what kind of strength lies within you. It's in those unfair moments that your character is measured, in your victories, but in your reactions to loss. You see, fairness is a human expectation, growth is a divine process, and those two don't always align. Life doesn't hand out justice according to our timeline, because God's purpose isn't to make you comfortable. It's to make you capable. The pain of being treated unfairly builds endurance. It chisels humility into your ambition. It forces you to depend less on how others treat you and more on how grounded you are in truth. If you let it, injustice can make you stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than comfort ever could. Think about it. Every great person you admire faced injustice before their breakthrough. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, falsely accused, and imprisoned before he became a ruler. David was hunted before he became king. Even Christ himself was condemned by the very people he came to save. These aren't just ancient stories. They're blueprints for how divine purpose unfolds. The path to significance is rarely smooth. It's littered with moments that make you question your worth, your faith, your calling. But those moments are the crucible where your strength is forged. Injustice has this strange power. It strips away illusion. When people treat you unfairly, you learn who truly supports you and who only stood beside you for convenience. You discover whether your motives were pure or merely self-serving. The sting of injustice reveals whether you're doing good because it's right or because it's easy. And when you keep choosing what's right, even when it costs you, you pass a spiritual test far greater than any external success. The world will not always celebrate integrity. Sometimes it will mock it. Sometimes it will ignore it completely. But that's not failure, that's refinement. The reward doesn't always come immediately. Sometimes it comes through who you become in the waiting. And that's what the test of injustice is truly about: transformation over vindication. God doesn't want to prove others wrong through you. He wants to make you right within yourself. So when life feels unfair, when you're doing everything you can to stay true, and all it seems to bring is pain, don't lose heart. The injustice you're facing isn't a dead end. It's a doorway. It's the moment heaven watches to see if you'll compromise your integrity for relief or endure for truth. Because the person who can stay faithful under unfairness is the one who can be trusted with influence. The test of injustice isn't meant to break you. It's meant to reveal that you cannot be broken. And when you come out of it, you'll realize the unfairness wasn't meant to destroy your purpose. It was shaping you into the kind of person who can carry it. There is a kind of waiting that feels endless. You've prayed, worked, sacrificed, and hoped, yet nothing seems to move. Doors stay closed, opportunities slip through your hands, and silence becomes your daily companion. That's when the test of delay begins. It's not a punishment, it's a pause with purpose. God delays not because He's forgotten you, because He's preparing you for something that premature success could destroy. The waiting season is not wasted. It's the soil where endurance, patience, and wisdom take root. We live in a world obsessed with immediacy. We want quick answers, instant results, and visible progress. But God's timing doesn't bend to our impatience. Delay is His way of stretching our faith beyond convenience. It forces you to confront your dependence on outcomes, to learn how to believe even when nothing visible is happening. It's easy to have faith when the path is clear, but true faith is forged when every step feels uncertain and every prayer seems unanswered. During delay, you begin to wrestle with yourself. Doubt creeps in. Maybe you misunderstood the calling. Maybe you're not worthy. Maybe it was never meant to be. And yet this inner conflict is where transformation happens. Waiting purifies desire. It burns away the need for control, teaching you to trust a will higher than your own. Because what you want might be good, but what God intends is often greater. And you can't see it yet. Delay is His way of aligning your heart with His purpose. So when the breakthrough comes, it won't ruin you. There's something sacred about the patience that's born from waiting. It's not passive, it's active endurance. It's the decision to keep showing up, to keep believing, to keep doing the right thing, even when there's no visible reward. Waiting reveals whether your commitment is real or conditional. It asks, do you love the dream or the recognition? Do you trust the process or only the outcome? It's in those long stretches of silence that your motives are tested and your maturity deepens. Look at nature. No seed bears fruit immediately. First, it's buried, hidden, unseen, seemingly lifeless. But under the surface, something essential is happening. Roots are forming. Structure is being built in the dark, so that when growth comes, it can sustain the weight of the fruit. That's what divine delay is. It's the rooting season, the time when God builds unseen strength in you so that when your moment arrives, you won't collapse under its pressure. Many people quit during delay because they confuse silence with absence. They think if nothing is happening, God has stopped caring. But silence is not abandonment, it's strategy. The longer you wait, the more prepared you become. The longer it takes, the deeper your foundation grows. Every closed door, every postponed answer, every unanswered prayer is shaping you for what's coming. When it finally arrives, you'll understand why it took so long. Because had it come sooner, you might not have been ready to receive it. So when it feels like life is standing still, when you've done everything right and nothing changes, don't let frustration steal your faith. The delay is not denial, it's development. It's the refining fire that turns potential into power. Every moment you endure in patience adds depth to your strength, because breakthroughs built on impatience crumble quickly, but those born in the waiting endure. The delay is God's way of saying, you're not just being prepared for the promise is being prepared for you, and when both are ready, the waiting will end, and what once seemed delayed will arrive precisely on time. There comes a moment when the real struggle isn't with circumstances or people, but with yourself. It's an inner war, a quiet, relentless wrestling between faith and doubt, between what you know is right and what feels easier. You can't show it to anyone, but it's there, deep in your chest. You wake up hopeful and go to bed uncertain. You tell yourself to believe, yet a part of you whispers, what if it never happens? That's one of the most defining tests before your breakthrough, the inner conflict that reveals whether your convictions can stand against your fears. This battle isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that something sacred is being formed within you. Faith isn't born in certainty, it's born in tension. It's the courage to keep moving even when your emotions betray you. God doesn't test your strength by removing doubt. He tests it by allowing you to feel it and still choose to trust. Because real faith isn't blind optimism. It's conscious resistance against despair. It's saying, I will believe, not because it's easy, because the alternative, giving up, leads to emptiness. In these moments, your mind becomes both battlefield and teacher. Every thought becomes a choice between surrendering to fear or standing firm in hope. The doubts will come, they always do. They'll tell you you're not enough, that your efforts are wasted, that your prayers are unheard. But the presence of doubt doesn't mean the absence of faith. It means you're human. What matters is what you do next. Will you let the voice of fear define your reality, or will you speak back to it with conviction? That choice repeated over and over, is how spiritual strength is built. The truth is, inner conflict is necessary. Without it, you'd never learn what you truly believe. If everything made sense, faith would be unnecessary. You'd never learn resilience if every prayer was instantly answered. You'd never discover courage if life never pressed you to your limits. God allows this tension because it's the only way your beliefs become more than words. They become lived truth. Each moment you choose faith over fear, patience over panic, integrity over impulse, you strengthen the core of your soul. But the struggle is exhausting. There will be nights you'll want to quit, to stop hoping, to stop caring. You'll tell yourself that peace means escape, but it doesn't. Peace doesn't come from avoiding the battle. It comes from facing it and realizing you're stronger than the chaos inside you. You're not losing your faith because you feel conflicted. You're deepening it. You're learning to trust not in feelings, but in the quiet certainty that even when you can't see the path, you're still being led. Every great transformation requires this internal friction. You can't move into a new level of purpose carrying an old mindset. The struggle is the breaking point where the old version of you, the one who needed control, proof, certainty, begins to die. And that's painful, but it's necessary because the person you're becoming has to be forged through that fire. Faith without testing is fragile. Faith that's been through the storm becomes unshakable. So when your heart feels divided, when your thoughts are loud and your prayers seem empty, remember that this inner battle is not a sign of failure. It's the sign of formation. God is not testing your belief to see if you'll collapse. He is building your endurance so you can carry what's coming next. The conflict inside you is not meant to destroy your peace. It's meant to reveal the strength that's been hidden beneath your doubt. And when you come out on the other side of that struggle, you'll realize that the fight within you was never against faith. It was faith itself, fighting for the right to stay alive. One of the most overlooked tests before a breakthrough is the test of smallness. It's not dramatic or glamorous. It doesn't come with applause or recognition. It comes in the form of small opportunities, simple responsibilities, quiet moments where no one is watching. It's in how you handle the mundane, the ordinary, the repetitive, the unseen, that God measures whether you're ready for more. Because before you can be trusted with greatness, you must prove faithful in the little things. It's not about what you want to do when the spotlight is on. It's about who you are when no one is looking. Most people want the reward before the responsibility. They dream of impact without realizing that significance begins in the small. God doesn't hand you a platform. He hands you a broom, a task, a duty, and waits to see how you treat it. Do you give your best when the moment feels insignificant? Do you pour effort into something that doesn't promise immediate results? That's where true integrity shows itself. The test of smallness is a test of character. It asks whether your motivation is rooted in purpose or in pride. It's easy to believe you'd be excellent if given a bigger chance. But the truth is, how you do the small thing is how you'll do the great thing. If you neglect what's minor, you'll collapse under what's major. Every great achievement is built on hidden faithfulness. Before David faced Goliath, he spent years tending sheep in obscurity. Before Joseph ruled Egypt, he managed another man's household with honesty. These moments of smallness are not delays, they're training grounds. God doesn't test your potential by how loudly you dream, but by how diligently you act in the quiet seasons. This test can feel frustrating because it disguises itself as insignificance. You might think, this isn't what I was made for. I was meant for more. But the truth is, you are being prepared for more through what feels like less. Small assignments teach humility. They train discipline. They refine your attention to detail. And they build the resilience to carry larger burdens later. Every time you give your best in the small, you declare that your worth isn't tied to visibility. It's tied to your values. There's something profoundly spiritual about doing small things well. It means you've learned to honor the process rather than rush the promise. It means you understand that consistency matters more than applause. The person who learns to be faithful in hidden seasons carries a quiet strength that can't be faked when they finally step into the open. Because when God finally opens the door to your breakthrough, He's not promoting potential. He's promoting proven faithfulness. The truth is, many people fail this test because they underestimate it. They wait for a big opportunity, ignoring the lessons hidden in the small ones. But God watches how you handle what's in your hands before He gives you what's in your heart. You can't skip the process. You can't bypass small beginnings. Every great story starts with a chapter that feels too ordinary to matter. But that's the chapter that builds the foundation for everything that follows. So if you're in a season that feels small, don't despise it. Don't rush it. You're being watched, not by people, but by purpose itself. How you handle today determines what you'll be trusted with tomorrow. Keep showing up. Keep giving your best. Keep honoring what's in front of you. Because one day, when the breakthrough finally comes, you'll realize it wasn't a sudden blessing. It was a quiet accumulation of 1,000 faithful moments that proved you were ready. And that's how God works. He doesn't reward ambition, He rewards consistency. The test of smallness is not about how much you can achieve. It's about how much you can be trusted